as he continues to rehab from the lower limb fracture he suffered in a car accident 3 months ago. Antonio said after the accident in December that he was grateful to be alive. Recently, head coach Graham Potter said Antonio's recovery is moving in the right direction. Great sight right there, a welcome sight. Michail Antonio returning to London Stadium.
In the game of football, there will be a point in time where your career will take a different turn. And today on Premier 7, I want to talk about what's next for West Ham and Jamaica striker in Michail Antonio. Focus on what's next, not what came before. This is a quote written that is linked directly to Michail Antonio, a popular player in the English Premier League and one who is known for representing the Jamaica men's national team. However, the transfer window is still open, and I am here wondering if Michail Antonio will be remaining at West Ham or will he be moving to a different club. Greetings and welcome to Premier 7, everyone. I am your host, Ryan Nelson. It has been a while that I haven't been here, but here I am with a video of importance surrounding one of our own Jamaican stars. So, the topic of importance stems directly from the topic what's next for Michail Antonio, Reggae Boyz' future and club options in 2025. I personally believe that Michail Antonio is coming close to the end of his career. However, he's not a finished product. And seeing that the Jamaica men's national team has included him in a few games, or let's say a game before, the break, I think he's a part of the coach's plan for World Cup 2026. But I mean, by way of that, I want to just have a discussion as to what will be the best thing for this player, right? So in this case, I just want to dive into a very important news that was being seen, and it speaks directly to West Ham plans, and it states West Ham's Michail Antonio replacement hammers open talk with veteran Premier League striker after releasing Jamaican following car accident, because we would have understood that he met in an accident sometimes this year, and of course we give thanks that he's still around. Now, within the article, it states that West Ham have their sights set on an experienced Premier League forward to replace Michail Antonio following his release from the East London club. So it shows then that it is curtains for the general. So Graham Potter is searching for a new striker following the release of Antonio and has persuaded West Ham higher ups to open talks with 33-year-old Callum Wilson. I think you guys would have known this guy who plays for Newcastle. Well, then again, he's an ex-Newcastle forward turned down as pay-as-you-play contract with the Magpies and could be on his way from the club to the capital should negotiation goes well. Right? So in that case, then I don't need to stretch this any further. So we have to understand then that Michail Antonio, the West Ham legend, has been released from West Ham. Now, within this video, I want to talk about what are the options that would be great for him. But before I do that, I just want to say, people, if you're new to the channel, I would say by now that you guys should know that you should subscribe. And if you are already a subscriber, then you know what to do. Of course, Premier 7 is trying to reach through the 3,000 subscription mark. And I think that you guys are capable to help this channel to reach to that part. So I spoke about the club options that I want to bring across that Michail Antonio could look to go to, because I'm a solution based person here. However, I just want to talk about him a bit as to his time at West Ham. Seeing that he's in his, let's say, mid 30s to late 30s, this guy was absolutely a gem for West Ham. It doesn't take a normal person to come out and dominate, making history. As you know, Michail Antonio is the top goal scorer for West Ham. However, I mean, as we realized that last season, he wasn't getting a lot of games, he was mostly coming from the bench. He was basically limited in terms of being a regular starter. And I mean, West Ham had that mentality then to say, we understand that Michael Antonio is our legend, but the club has to live on. No one is bigger than the club, but this guy is highly rated as a top player for West Ham. And I mean, if you are very much impressed about the legacy that this man leaves at West Ham, then you can go ahead and smash a like. The thing is, the reality has to be here, because it is always good to talk about the good things, but here, I don't think I should move on from what the obvious truth is. Michael Antonio needs to find a club for his career. No to the club option. So I have a few options here that I think he could consider. Seeing that a lot of Jamaican players have been transferred thus far to different clubs, boosting their chances for the World Cup qualifications in September. And I think, honestly speaking, not because Michael Antonio is a part of Coach Steve McLaren plans. He has to find himself a club. Just like Ravel Morrison, I said it before in a previous video that he has to find a club. And the same thing goes for Michael Antonio. So, three options. He can think about playing in the MLS. Move to the United States would make a lot of sense. Get used to the environment a bit more, like the DC United, the Charlton FC, or the Chicago Fires. A veteran like Michael Antonio could fit in well because he still have that completeness, and he would enjoy the new lifestyle and represent Jamaica in a league that is growing in popularity. All right, one of the other options he could consider then is to join the Saudi Arabian League in UAE, a very well-known league by now, and I think it could be a big move for Michael Antonio, seeing that he's coming to the end of his career. Why not try to get some more money in your pocket? You have worked hard for West Ham. You'll be hanging up your shoes sometimes down the line, not far away. So have a very good ending to your career. So clubs like Al Wada, or Etifak could be an option for Michael Antonio. He could make himself available to at least guide the youngsters and help boost their career as well. And that will let it be known then that you're not a selfish person, for which I don't think you were in the past. But with your experience, these guys can rub shoulders with you and to become better at their game, because legends are made and they will be retired. All right. However, another option could be in the championship. By the way, does Michael Antonio want to play in the championship though? However, I'm giving him his option. So he could come full circle to return to the EPL, well, the EFL championship. Um, Maybe clubs that are there see him. He knows his option that would fit well with his style of play. Maybe the Sheffield Wednesdays, the QPRs. I help him to push for promotion. I mean, there are Jamaicans who are in some of these clubs, or persons who are of Jamaican descent that have been scouted to represent the country. Michael Antonio could go to those clubs, get familiar with them. I mean, it's English based conditions that he's used to as well. And of course, could help him to be better. Um, Another option, but this I think he should look at this after, if Jamaica do qualifies for the World Cup, and to become a media personnel or take up a career in coaching. So I'm preparing Michael Antonio life even after football. So um he could become like a podcast host and stuff that does, but that is done in the latter stage of his life. All right, so it's Jamaican status now. I mean, this guy has been with Jamaica from about 2021, has not been the best. His best games still remain, and I think anyone who wishes to play football can at least look at the career of Michail Antonio to say, I would love to be somewhat similar like these persons. But the truth is, Jamaica attacking force needs to be revamped because the likes of, for example, Shamar Nicholson, Dujan, Richards, Leon Bailey, as local Jamaicans, they're not outstanding as I would love for them to be, and I'm not picking on them. It's just the names that came to mind. So, I mean, Michael Antonio, as I've mentioned earlier, has to find himself into a club, seeing that we need to have a firepower front line, knowing that Mason Greenwood, hopefully all is being completed with him right now, so we can have him recruited and play for the national team. But Michael Antonio, as a veteran West Ham player, we would love to see some of his West Ham brilliance coming into the national team. However, for me, I am 50-50 as to whether or not he should represent Jamaica. I don't wish for persons to say it is his last dance, whatever it may be, because we have to get the best of the best players out there. But Michael Antonio has always made himself available for Jamaica. But should he or will he be a part of the team to represent the national team in the upcoming qualifiers in September's? Right? So, I mean, the thing is, legacy and farewell. So by now we understand that this guy is a legend for West Ham and he has rose to promises in Europe. One of the most well-known names in the Premier League, scored some brilliant and top-class goals. I mean, we would love to see this reflect for Jamaica. And if he performs at this international colors, we would have ourselves booked and ready to go and play in the World Cup. So this guy, he has set the tone, but not for Jamaica as yet. Here and there is a bittersweet player, but is a wonderful person who a lot of persons would like to even have conversations with. But football, we speak, we don't just speak about personality of people, but we want the best for the national team and for the program. So people, I mean, what do you think about the video? What's next for Michail Antonio? Is Reggae Boy's future? Should Michail Antonio now consider go to one of those MLS teams or take up his time to think fast enough to go to a championship team or in Saudi? Because at the end of the day, if he's hungry to play for Jamaica in the World Cup qualifiers and help us go to the World Cup, he have to step up and find himself a club. So people, it is time for me to go. Take care, goodbye, until we meet again.